So, when we last left you, we were leaving Mississippi, heading back into Louisiana, but we just had to remember the fact that we had been in Louisiana a couple of nights before at one of the most beautiful state parks in northeastern Louisiana, Lake Bruin on an oxbow lake. And the weather was simply gorgeous. But Brinkley wanted to move ahead, and he wanted a fun story. So we headed out of Mississippi into Louisiana, and we were going to stay at a place called the Myrtles, which is an old plantation built in the late 1700s by a whiskey rebellion guy. Kind of a fun story. And we ended up learning quite quickly that it's actually a haunted mansion. In fact, they claim it's the most haunted plantation in all of the Americas. So we pulled in, got signed in as a Harvest Host guest, stayed in the back 40, which was very quiet, and no trains anywhere near, which was a nice thing. Brinkley said that he would stay out front and be our guard against ghosts. And it was a great place. So after eating dinner in the rig, we went for a nice walk. They've got beautiful gardens out back. They've got some fun cabins that people can rent. Along with, you can actually stay in the haunted rooms in the plantation mansion. No, thank you. We saw some of the locals swimming around. That's always fun. I wonder if they'll be up in Minnesota later this year. Nah. So as it got later in the day, we continued to enjoy the grounds and fresh air. We brought Brinkley back to the rig and got ready at the meeting point for our ghost tour. It was really fun to listen to the stories. Stories about 3 Union soldiers that were killed while playing poker in the poker room. And stories about the mom and her 2 children who were poisoned to death by the mistress of her husband. And now those 2 children roam the halls and want you to play with their toys. And faces that can be seen in mirrors. And furniture drawers that open and close. It was a lot of fun until it got to this portrait of a little girl they say was painted on the left side while she was alive and the right side after her death. Well, we got out of there alive. We had coffee and Danish on the back terrace the next morning. And then we headed south, down toward Baton Rouge. A beautiful day for a drive down around the levee. We were looking for Farr's, what was it called? Farr's Equestrian Campground. A beautiful, actually very simple campground, just a little ways off the Mississippi River. I had scoped it out before leaving home. Knew it should be fairly quiet. And fairly, I guess deserted would be the best word. First opportunity in a little while for Brinkley to get out and run around in the grass and maybe play some catch with Corinne while I got the drone ready.
Good boy.
So while Brinkley was relaxing and eventually taking a good nap after playing catch with his favorite tennis ball, I thought I'd put the drone up and see if there was any barge traffic over on the river. Look at downtown Baton Rouge in the upper right-hand corner off in the distance. And like always, the river is bustling with activity. There's the levee that we're going to ride our bikes on later. But it's just fun watching the barges going up and down. I have been down in this area many times, and it has never failed to impress me how busy this river really is. This is something we don't see up north. Container barges or container ship barges? Container barges. Our first real bike ride on the levee south of Baton Rouge. Corinne is not using motor assist on our new e-bikes, and she's kicking my butt. All right, we're running over cow pies. We actually drove past him on our way out, and he hadn't moved. So I guess there was enough grass there for him to eat to stay around for an hour or so. It was a fun ride, nice and smooth. My main goal was to not fall off, as it had been quite a few years since I had been on a bike, and when we purchased our e-bikes last winter, we only got to ride them for a few minutes. Barges everywhere. This is quite a ways downstream from where I had the drone up, and there are just barges everywhere. We had noticed on our way out that there was a huge bald eagle's nest, so we were waiting to see if we could photograph that and get some good pictures. Just more barges working, getting set up and getting ready to go. I had to turn the volume down on my video recording because the wind was so loud. That is starting to be a theme of this trip. There's the eagles. Fancy shoes, dude. So we had a really nice stay at Far Equestrian Campground south of Baton Rouge. I would highly recommend it, unless there's an equestrian event going on, of course. We headed out the next morning. Kind of overcast skies the last few days, but just another great day for a ride, and this was going to be a special day. We were going mooch docking. What does that mean? That means we were staying in a friend's driveway. Brinkley had told us he wanted some Cajun food, and doggone it, he was going to get some Cajun food. So we pulled up to our friend's house. Oh, but Brinkley wasn't all that happy because he wasn't able to get any of the incredible gumbo. But that's all right. We had a great time before heading off again the next morning. Headed down the river. Headed to another Harvest Host location, and on the other side of the levee was a pretty interesting area where we saw some cruise ships embarking and disembarking. Are those the right words? That was a lot of fun. We had fun watching them. This one was the American Melody. There were only about 60 or 70 passengers on it, if I remember correctly. So the American Melody is owned by the American Cruise Lines Company. And the cool thing is they were going upstream to everywhere we had just been. I was hoping to see the nose come down, but I don't think we will. So this was stopped at the Hummus House and the Great River Road Museum, where we'll be spending the night. It's on its way up to Baton Rouge, and then St. Francisville, they're going to do some haunted mansion. I wonder where that would be. Then they're going to go up to Natchez and Vicksburg. Right after that ship pulled out, a Viking ship pulled in. And it's kind of fun to watch. Every harbor or every stop that they make, they have their own specific bus lines that travel along the river with them to pick them up and bring them to different places. So these buses were picking up and dropping off. And we'll see the cruise ship in just a minute. So they pick the passengers up from the port or from the dock and bring them to different attractions around the area. It's really cool. This one happens to be really close, so they just use golf carts. There's the Viking. And I'll talk much more about the Great River Road Museum after a little while. There's actually a lot of these cruise ships up and down the Mississippi River. We see them up in Red Wing, Minnesota every once in a while. There's actually a paddle wheeler up there, but that company went bankrupt a few months ago. They're hoping it will be bought and refurbished and start back up again. The fog had started rolling in, making it kind of an ominous sight on the river. So we were going to be staying in the parking lot at the Great River Road Museum, which is right next to the Hummus House Plantation, which was a beautiful area. I've gotten to a point now where I start scoping out railroad tracks and railroad switching yards. I knew there was one here, but it didn't look like the railroad tracks were going to be all that busy. We'll see. The gardens back behind the museum and behind the plantation house were absolutely beautiful. I'll include some video and some pictures here. For this time of year, it was actually fairly lush and green, but I'm sure in the summer and fall, it is spectacular. The plantation house just coming into view in the bottom right-hand corner there has a couple of larger buildings out in the back, and there was actually a wedding going on the night that we were there. So this is all just outside of Baton Rouge. Fairly easily reachable for New Orleans residents if there's nothing bad happening on I-10 going across all of the beautiful swampland. If you're familiar with this area, you know exactly what I mean. And sure enough, just as I was bringing the drone back, I noticed the first train of the evening. Has to be. Brinkley had a great time. Well, all three of us had a great time, and the grounds were just beautiful. Several waterfalls, fountains all over the place. There's Corinne and Brinkley walking up toward the, I don't know, is that a Japanese style house up on top of the waterfall? All the bamboo, it was very beautiful. Warm. Brinkley Boo.
All right, you ready to go?
There's our first look at the actual plantation house.
Brinkley, this way.
All of these oak trees were just incredible. We didn't get to go inside, but the outside was beautiful enough. And Brinkley found some friends to play with. He didn't want to wait till we got down to Big Cypress and Everglades down in southern Florida. I wish things grew this beautiful and lush up north. They even had a pet cemetery and an area with goats and chickens and peacocks and huge bunny rabbits. Brinkley wasn't sure if he needed to stand guard again tonight and protect us from ghosts. After relaxing and walking around the grounds and enjoying all the fountains and the lush greenery, I had wanted to go into the Great River Road Museum and see what it was all about. It's a very eclectic museum. Native American history, War of 1812 versus the British in the New Orleans area, sugar plantation information, lots of good history on the Civil War. Also, one of the things I was really looking forward to was, as a kid, I built a lot of ships. And they've got a great display of ships that are reminiscent of what was available or what was viewed on the river back in the 17 and 1800s. Here's a great display of the figurines that are found throughout the museum. Wax figures that actually came from a wax museum over in New Orleans that closed in 2016. It was open for 50 or 60 years. And I think it adds so much to the history of this museum and the telling of the stories. The artifacts that they have are incredible. Another beautiful wooden boat. Actually, lots of different ones. I remember building a Robert E. Lee as a little kid. It was out of plastic and a lot smaller than that one, but it sure was fun, and I remember it. When you walk through this part of the museum, it's set up to talk about all the beautiful plantations on the east and west sides of the Mississippi. Each plantation has a placard area. Very interesting. And then I liked the 200 years of the Louisiana sugar industry placard. So as we say goodnight to the Great River Road Museum and the Hummus House Plantation, we actually say goodnight to this video. Join us for the next video when it's going to be everything Mississippi River Delta. We're going to have a great time exploring the end of the Great River. Thanks for joining us, friends. Hit the like and subscribe if you want, and join us for the next video. Thanks. Take care.